So I think the stark increase in the amount of cyber attacks that we're facing at this point in time can be attributed to multiple factors. Uh, One factor, of course, is the digital proliferation that is happening across and even at the grassroots level, that is increasing day by day, right? Our digital footprints are increasing day by day. And the second major factor, of course, is that the cyber attack frameworks are maturing at a tremendous pace, and a lot of that can be attributed to the whole AI wave that is taking over. Pretty much the all the verticals that we are looking at, right? And media is not really escaping from that as well. So I think now we are in a position wherein even somebody who was a novice attacker has got all the right kind of tools, the right kind of agility, the right kind of frameworks that he can just use without even having the right kind of technical expertise to craft really good exploits, to craft really good attack vectors, which can then proliferate into the enterprise space as well, right? Now, coming back to the other question, which was in terms of whether the Indian organizations are prepared for it. So I would actually look at it in different ways, not only the Indian organization. I think organization across the world, whether we look at the developed, developing, or underdeveloped organization nations, they are facing the same kind of a risk here. It's not really about are we completely prepared? We can never be completely prepared. It will always be a cat and mouse chase between a cyber attacker and the defenders. But I think it's about how much agile we are, how much prepared we are in terms of continuously maturing ourselves and evolving ourselves with the ongoing landscape. The major attribution to it basically goes with AI, and we're seeing it with, let's say, Claude Mythos, right? Now, when that kind of sophisticated technology is basically on the other end of the spectrum, the whole cyber defense paradigm is completely changed, right? So it has to be looked at in various ways. If I talk about enterprise, I think the ownership, we have to start treating IT, cyber attack, not only as an IT risk, we have to look at an enterprise risk, we have to look at an ecosystem risk, which is now at hand, right? And we basically have to have the right kind of checks and balances, and we have to have the right kind of tool sets, business continuity plans to not only detect, but also to contain and remediate these kind of attacks. I think there are two major things that you touched upon here, right? One, of course, we are talking about the quantum cryptography, which is a big buzzword right now. And the other, of course, so this is something which is going to happen. It's not happening now. It is urgent, it is critical, but it's not happening now. The other that we spoke about is the AI, which is happening now as we speak, right? So in terms of, let's take the example of the PQC, the post-quantum cryptography you were talking about, right? So the idea here, and you mentioned something which is bang on target. The CB chief rather mentioned something which is bang on target, which is harvest now and decrypt later. Now, here the challenge with the organization is not that, we are not in a position at this point in time where we can, just kind of scrape all our current encryption algorithms or paraphernalia and then just start something which is ready for PQC sort of an attack. That's not the idea, right? The idea is, and to be very honest, and this is not really a theoretical thing. I mean, if you look at the NIST standards, NIST in 2024 spoke very heavily about the PQC. And as per them, by 2035, all the quantum vulnerable algorithms will stop being supported. So I think US has already made its move and said that hey, in 2035 we'll stop supporting these algorithms, right? So for us, I think at this point in time, what Indian organizations should be doing is they have to be more diligent, and they have to be having some sort of a crypto agility, right? What I mean by that is you have to figure out an inventory. Where are these current algorithm setting? Where are you using RSA? Where are you using ECC? How are they being used? Number one. Number two, you need to really identify which are your critical assets, which are your critical systems, how dependent they are, and what is your mitigation plan in case something like this happens, right? And third thing, which is a bigger risk, is for an organization, it is okay if I adopt these standards, but no organization works in isolation, right? You've got a whole paraphernalia, and you've got a whole ecosystem of multiple vendors which connect to a particular enterprise, if I talk about, right? So we also have to make sure that the enterprises or the vendors which are connecting to my systems are also crypto ready to basically support this kind of PQC. So I think from an enterprise and from a country specific, it is high time that we get these kind of standards out, like what is coming with the NIST, and in part it is already being done. I mean, certain is doing it, Zen is trying to do something very similar, but it has to propagate to the lowest level in terms of the enterprise. We have to start now in terms of planning this so that when the quantum computing, the day of quantum attacks do come, at that point in time, we are not really using these kind of vulnerable algorithms. So yes, it is going to happen, but we have sufficient time to do that. But we have to move now. We have to treat it with a sense of urgency, but not with a sense of panic at this point in time, right? The second question, which basically came in, was in terms of that with the whole paradigm of how AI is coming. So there are two aspects to it, right? One aspect is how cyber criminals are going to use the entire AI ecosystem. And typically, what is happening is that now, as and when the AI is getting smarter, uh, AI is basically being used to identify, like you were talking about vulnerabilities. So earlier, identifying a vulnerability in an application used to be a very long drawn task, right? Used to have these cyber researchers, you used to spend days and months to identify one zero-day vulnerability. But in the day and age of AI, this is basically happening in a completely autonomous fashion. Now, that is the good news also, and that is the bad news also. So, as you said, it is all about staying ahead of the curve. And in terms of staying ahead of the curve, we need to basically, if the cyber criminal can identify that vulnerability, we need to identify it probably before him by using similar tools or probably more advanced tools. The whole idea of these advanced large language models being moderated. So, I mean, Fable was, Mythos was released, but it was under a very, very restrictive access. And there's a good sense and logic behind it, right? So these kind of technologies have to be thoroughly moderated. They have to be in the hands of the right kind of people. We have to do a lot of diligence in terms of controlling, auditing, and governing the use of these kind of AI technologies so they do not fall into the wrong hands. And even if they do, I mean, we also have the similar technology. So if it can be used for cyber attacks, we have to use it for cyber defense also. The third aspect of it basically comes in terms of with so much AI itself is a vulnerability, right? So this dependency on agentic AI, this dependency on generative AI and all the kind of platforms that are being built right now also has a third dimension, right? What if the AI itself goes rogue? So that is the third dimension which has to be looked at. And if you look at it, I mean, there are a lot of standards which are already being enforced. So if you look at OWASP top 25 for agentic AI, I'm just giving an example, right? Even if you look at India, you look at DPDP, you look at all the different acts that are coming right now, everybody is focusing on how do you basically make your AI ecosystem secure. So the whole cybersecurity paradigm in terms of measuring your resilience to cyber attack has an entire charter on how you should do it against AI and how you should incorporate AI so that AI itself does not become one of your weakest links, right? So it's a mixture of resilience, it's a mixture of educating people. It's a mixture of standards, it's a mixture of policies, it's a mixture of how well these policies are implemented, and we are governing whether these are implemented, which needs to be done. But having said that, at this day and age, trust me, this entire space is moving at a very, very tremendous pace. What we think is not going to be possible today is actually happening in a day's time. So I think agility is one of the key things that we need to keep in mind while we are moving into this kind of a ecosystem as we speak.